On today's Cowboys Report, we're breaking down the ESPN 53-man roster projection. Not going player by player, I think that's kind of boring, but rather focusing in on who did not make the roster. Some surprise cuts included by ESPN's Todd Archer. There were some noteworthy keeps included that we'll discuss as part of that. We'll break down 5 surprise cut candidates, but first, I do want to make sure we bury the Raiders in this month's like battle. They made a late comeback in June to catch us and win. Now, we've got a pretty good-sized lead, but that's 1 or 2 videos. And we're going to have a little bit less work for you guys this weekend because I'm in my club championship. So let's make sure we bury them today. Like that video. Get to at least 1,000 likes. We'll be in really, really good shape. First up on the surprise cuts from ESPN, it's Ryan Flournoy, the rookie wide receiver. The Cowboys in this projection from ESPN's Todd Archer only carried 5 wideouts. CeeDee Lamb, Brandon Cooks, Jalen Tolbert, Kevontae Turpin, and Jalen Brooks. So it was a very light group of wide receivers, in part because they took heavier at other positions. Archer himself has mentioned that Flournoy's flashed at times. And remember, I think any rookie not making the team is kind of a surprise. This is an organization that likes their guys. They like to find ways to put the first-year players on the roster, even if it means as a redshirt year and they're not on the 48, but they're on the 53. Now, Flournoy's a small school player. That requires an adjustment. But there's a lot of really good athletic ability here. 4.44 speed at 6. We'll round. They'll put him at 6'1", so we'll round up and say that too. 202 with 39.5-inch vert. The Cowboys don't have that type of receiver on that roster projection. Lamb is a special player, but he's not a 4.44 guy. He's incredibly dynamic. Cooks is, but he's small. Turpin is, but he's small. Tolbert's not. Brooks is not. Brooks is the smallest guy on the roster right now, or slowest guy on the roster, wide receiver. Part of the reason why Dallas only took 5 was they went heavy at the running back position. Ezekiel Elliott, Rico Dowdle, Royce Freeman, and Deuce Vaughn, who I think is on the bubble, but is kind of like, I think he's the backup to Kevontae Turpin, basically. I think you'll see Turpin get some handoffs. Now, there'll be like tosses and maybe the occasional straight-up handoff, but he'll be utilized in kind of it's a gadgety role that will involve a slot receiver, backfield, return stuff. I think Deuce Vaughn will play a similar role, if healthy. Royce Freeman and Hunter Lipke. Carrying 5 made the Cowboys go a little bit thinner at wide receiver. They also carried 3 quarterbacks, by the way, in the roster projection. So does Ryan Flournoy make the Cowboys roster? I think he does, but what do you think? It's the pinned comment on today's show, so if that ad comes on the YouTube side, take advantage of it. Head down there. Y for yes, N for no. Next up is Peyton Hendershot, which maybe isn't the most incredibly shocking outcome, but there was a point where people were really hyping up Hendy, and that seems to have come and gone. They had 3 tight ends on the roster, Ferguson, Luke Schoonmaker, and John Stevens Jr., so nobody else. Only 3 tight ends to carry a fullback. Maybe they won't end up carrying 4. Now, I could see Hendershot getting through waivers if he is cut. I also don't know if he'd come back to Dallas because they like Princeton Fant, who Archer's hyped up. They like Brevin Spann-Ford. Maybe there's a scenario in which both sides go, yeah, you know what, Hendy, you can get a bigger role somewhere else. We'll let you leave. It'll be okay. So TBD certainly on that front, but we'll keep an eye on it and what potentially ends up happening at the tight end. I really think there's going to be some good competition there for the Cowboys. Now, today's show is made possible by our good friends over at Game Time. If you're trying to go to a baseball game as the season winds down, there is no ticketing app you should use other than Game Time. They make getting tickets faster and easier, and the prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch. And with the Game Time guarantee, you know you're getting the best deal. They have the lowest price guarantee, or they're going to credit you 110% of the difference, and your purchase is covered by the most flexible customer service policy in the industry. I am a big fan of the zone deals. You pick the section, Game Time picks the seats for big-time savings in the process. We've also got the view from your seat feature. It's kind of like a live photo. You can move your camera around, look around, and see where you're actually sitting. Which makes sense, right? But it's a nice, easy feature that's very intuitive. So download the Game Time app over at GameTime.co. Create your account and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. But again, create your account and redeem code CHATSPORTS, CHATSPORTS, for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. The link and the code will be in the comment section and the description of today's show. The Cowboys, like many organizations, I'm not trying to ding them for this, try to give their draft picks, especially along the offensive line, as many chances as possible. 2 of them were cut from this projection. Now, one of them, I think a fairly obvious standout option in Josh Ball, but also Matt Waletzko. Now, the ESPN projection sits like this, and I will make note, by the way, I'm hoping it's Tyler Guyton at left tackle and Kuribi at center. It might be Chuma Edoga and Brock Hoffman, and I wanted to keep it balanced with just one name on each side because Osweiler is getting some work at guard, by the way, and I don't think maybe they make him a right tackle. Don't worry too much about this. These are the 10 guys. Tyler Guyton, Tyler Smith, Kuribi, Zach Martin, Terrence Steele, Osweiler, Nathan Thomas makes the team, the 7th rounder, Brock Hoffman, TJ Bass, Chuma Edoga. There's only a couple spots left open for grabs. And Waletzko has to stay healthy. He's shown some flashes when he's been out there. He's flashed the ability to look like, maybe he is going to be a pretty good football player for us, and he can maximize what is really good athletic ability. Well, he's been banged up a lot, and the best ability is availability, and there ain't been a lot of availability from Matt Waletzko. Now, we are this close to beating our subscriber number from the month of July. I think we can do it on this video, frankly. Help us get there. I know a lot of you guys watch the show, you're subscribed, but not all of you are. Let's bat 100% on that. Hit that sub button right now. Justin Rogers is next up here. This is noteworthy to me. And frankly, just as shocking as Ryan Flournoy. Even though Rogers was only a 7th round pick, this defensive tackle room isn't good. Here was the projection of the DTs, and I'll include Chauncey Golson and Junior Fehoko as the DT-DE hybrids. You got Osa, Mazi, and Carl Davis. That's it. I don't think Carl Davis is good. The argument was kind of like, Mazi might not be as impactful as hoped, so we're going to give the veteran spot to Carl Davis for now. What? No. And I'll say this. Look, Mike Zimmer didn't get a ton of his guy picks in the draft, right? He got Marshawn Nealon. He got Kalen Carson. He got a couple of UDFAs. He got Maurice Leafau. This team needs the big boys in the middle. Justin Rogers is a big boy in the middle. I would be very concerned. As even though I get he's a 7th round pick, we should temper our expectations as such. Your one actual defensive tackle addition in the offseason that wasn't a undrafted free agent didn't make your team? Red flag, man. That would be a real red flag to me. So do the Cowboys end up cutting any of their rookies? 1 for yes, 0 for no. Sound off for me in the comment section of today's video. Finally, Eric Scott Jr. is on this list. Now, he was a trade-up pick last year. I would wonder if he's a trade candidate as opposed to an outright cut candidate, but it wasn't specified. He was on the list for ESPN. Cowboys only carrying 5 corners. Trayvon Diggs, Deron Bland, Jordan Lewis, Kalen Carson, Garyon Conley over Eric Scott, which would be... I am very curious how Conley looks. I don't really know how good he's going to be, but he was a former 1st-round pick, which can't actually say about anybody else on that roster at cornerback, by the way, as funny as that sounds. But this would be a pretty big disappointment. Cowboys moved the 5th-round pick last year to acquire Eric Scott at the beginning of the 6th round of the 2023 NFL Draft. He was not great in the preseason. He had a redshirt year. I wonder how much was this a Dan Quinn pick? Was this a Will McClay heavily influenced pick? If Scott's not on this roster, I would not be shocked if he was traded to Washington. And if I could get a good defensive tackle, or even just a competent defensive tackle, the 52nd best player on my roster at DT, I would strongly consider trading Eric Scott for him. So name a notable player who you think ends up getting cut. Let me know in the comments of today's video. I'm going to cheat and throw in 2 more bonus names here. Both Israel Mukuamu and Nahshon Wright. I actually don't think that'd be all that shocking. I just don't want to give the dream on Izzy to start. He hasn't played a ton. I think he's a good special teamer. I think he's a corner more than he's a safety. We'll see how Mike Zimmer feels about that. Put these guys together because they were the same draft class. I had Izzy over Nahshon Wright. I still maintain I was right. Because when Wright has played, it hasn't been very good. Cowboys only carried 4 safeties, by the way, in this roster projection. Malik Hooker, Donovan Wilson, Marquise Bell, Wanye Thomas. That's a good quad at safety. Not like the superstar Hooker or anything, but it's a good group to be sure. So I just wanted to make note of Izzy and Nahshon Wright.